Hello, hello, hello. You are with Div and Diana here on today's episode of enLIGHTen. We were just chatting, what did we want to explore today? What do we want to talk about? And the thing that, you share what you said. I'll let you lead and share.
What's coming up for me a lot is
I didn't close it. Fine.
Professionalism through and through right here.
Yeah.
No, the thing that keeps coming up for me is as I scroll Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or any of those lovely social media things that's giving us our sense of connection while we're apart, in a lot of ways, I keep seeing like ISO workout, be fit by the time you leave ISO, or like learn a language. What other ones have I seen? Like learn how to cook and all this sort of stuff. Write the great novel, whatever. And I just kind of want to be like, I shouldn't swear, but like F off. Because just because we're in isolation doesn't mean that we suddenly have to generate constantly. And this isn't just something that happens in ISO. But like, we should all give each other permission just to continue being as we were, if that's what we want to do, or do less. I don't know.
Well, I find it interesting because to me, it's just a sign that the disease of our society, which is the imbalance to the masculine doing, has, just because we changed our environments, we're in the house, can't leave the house. Still, that what can we do? What's the doing that can be done in the house? So I'd be really interested to see what would happen if people were to use this time to relax more and to instead of getting excited about what new things can be done, and mind you, I'm talking about the healthy balance between recognizing that if the invitation is to do more, if we're addicted to doing, then when we're not doing, what happens is we feel out of sorts and like something's not right? We feel a bit like, whether it's guilty or just a sense that something's not right if we're not doing. I've forgotten something, or there's a feeling of being unsettled. And then so we do more to try to ease that feeling of being unsettled.
But it doesn't go away when you do more. That's
temporarily.
Yeah. I guess the thing that occurs to me is, like most people in our society, and I want to say particularly artists, but I don't know that it is particularly artists, there is always this pressure, like, what are you creating? What are you working on? What are you working towards? How are you turning that into income? If you're not making income from it, is it even really count as a thing? Parents, what? Who said that? That is one. Like, I'll get really excited about a project I'm working on. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this and it's gonna be awesome and I'm gonna support these people. And my parents are like, cool, how much money are you making from it? I'm like, not a lot. Because, that happens sometimes. Just because you're excited about something and it's awesome doesn't mean you're necessarily going to make money from it. But all of those things where, like, you feel the push to produce and create, very little quality comes out of it. The amount of, like, pressure that comes in that moment zaps so much energy that, like, could be creation energy, but ends up being, like, protection energy. I don't know if that quite makes sense. And then even though you've created something awesome, you don't feel its awesomeness because it wasn't created, like, fun. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I absolutely agree that when we create from a sense of pressure or obligation, it does not carry the same energy as if we were to create from a space of inspiration, or I just really want to do this thing, and what I would say though is many people don't know the difference, because if I think back to my younger self, my earlier self, I had only ever created from obligation. So the idea that I could feel inspired to do something was just, what I know now was obligation, I thought was inspiration at the time, because I didn't have that breadth of experience. It was just, do I feel very obligated or a little obligated? And if I feel a little obligated, I call that inspiration.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. So I thought I lost you there for a moment. I'm like,
no, I was thinking back to my projects and being like, oh yeah, I know the thing you're talking about, where like you have to get it done, but it doesn't feel like, I have to get it done. So you're like, oh, I'm inspired. And you look back and you're like, no, you weren't inspired. You just were comfortable with the level of obligation you were under in that moment.
Yeah. And so this concept of like the pressure that we can put ourselves under, and particularly like I titled this episode about wasting time. This idea that that it's even possible to do that.
Yeah. I love the concept of wasting time, because it reveals such an amazing metaphor. And you would know this when people talk about wasting time rather than like using time kind of thing. Like even that small distinction, there is a huge metaphor behind it. And, you know, like a lot of people do that one of like, you're never wasting time if you're enjoying yourself. And it's like, well, actually, how do you even know when you're wasting time? I remember one time when I tried very hard to waste time, and you'll remember this, after I left my job in the city, I was like, I'm going to take like 3 months and do nothing. That was my plan. I was like, I'm not going to do anything but like go for walks, drink coffee or wine, hang out with friends, go to the beach, just completely chill. And somewhere around week 2, I started a novel. And somewhere around week, I don't know, it was sort of towards the end of that 3 months, I had written a whole book, because when I gave myself complete space to do nothing, I wanted to create. Like, yeah.
So, I mean, that's the difference when we kind of allow ourselves the spaciousness to decide to move in what ways we feel inspired. But the thing that stops us a lot of the time is this unconscious underlying program that's like, it's in the metaphor, I am wasting time, as if time was something that could be wasted. And then how many of us grew up feeling guilty for like being told it's bad to waste, and there was a sense of guilt. So time mustn't be wasted, and if you're doing something other than being productive, and of course I believe we're never not producing, it's just what we're producing that varies from moment to moment. But that concept creates a lot of struggle in ourselves and in our experience. You know, it makes what could be a light and cruisy day. And I only say this because time was one of the biggest things that I struggled with when for I don't even know how many years. When I remember one of my very first brain trainer laughing at me when I used the word time poor. That was a phrase that I used a lot. I don't know if that's something that it's still used now, I think. Some people use the word time poor, but for me, her response was in my circle then, everyone was time poor. We were all like, yeah, you know, we're busy, time poor. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm a bit time poor right now. And she laughed and said, how have you managed to make poverty out of something that we all have the same amount of? So like this aspect of time, we all get the same amount. It's just What's different is the level of pressure that we put on ourselves to produce something with it, to create something with it. Like that's what really stirred me when you were saying, if I see one more post about, what you can do during isolation, then,
Yeah. I guess, yeah, it is. I never quite fell into the trap of time poor. I don't remember ever using those words, but I do remember often saying, I don't have enough time for the things I want to do. And now I would rephrase that to say, I'm not putting enough priority on the things that I want to do with my time. But at the time, it really did. I think the shift was from thinking all the things that I had to do, I actually had to do them. And it was like obligation, life or death. And so all the things I want to do just have to sit over there till this is done, to sort of now this thing where it's like, oh, these are the things that do need to get done. These are the things I want to do. How many of these do I want to tick off today? And which ones of these am I going to do today? And it's like a very different system. Whereas at one point, I know I felt like all of this stuff had to be done before I got to go do the other things.
Yeah. I recognize that structure. I had a similar one too. And in my case, though, like none of those could ever be done because I had things on there that couldn't ever really be done, like laundry, for instance, because are we ever really done with like there's always something more. So I never got to the things that I wanted to do because there was still the things I was supposed to be doing or should be doing, or the things, and I would get really annoyed with my partner at the time who would prioritize recreation. And now I see the wisdom in that, because he recognized that we actually will never be done with those things. So if we don't prioritize the recreation, like you'll never be done with it. There'll always be something more to do around the house. There'll always be. So
I'm remembering as you say that, I think it was a session you and I did together where I was having like, not a meltdown, but a real sense of frustration with someone I was working with, because they didn't come in half an hour before they had to be there and work nonstop without a lunch break till they go on to try and get as many things done as possible. They came in at their time, they left at their time, they took their lunch break, they did what they could, they let it go when they couldn't, and just went about their life, and they're very chill. And I remember being like, what's the point of even like working for a company and getting paid if you're not going to like give 110% every day and make sure everything gets done? And you were just like, or how much genius is there in the fact that she's earning the same amount as you do and chilling? And I was like, whoa, like it was just a completely different way of looking at it, where I had been very, very sure that I was in the right, that like I was the smart one because I was doing everything I could all the time. And then it was just that small shift to like, actually, isn't it kind of genius that she does what she can and she lets it go? And I was like, fuck yeah, it is. Like, oh, gotta stop swearing. But yeah, it was like that thing of like, damn, that's actually brilliant. Like, do what you can and let it go. And the thing that I always like click to, oh, I might be slipping back to the old way of thinking. It's actually like best summed up in a meme that I know, where it's like watching Netflix and then brain, remember all the things you have to do. Me, watching Netflix stressfully. And it's like, it's that thing where you're like, if you're constantly putting part of your attention on all the things that could be produced, and that list doesn't ever actually go away or go down that much, to be honest, because whenever you finish something, something else appears, or sometimes you finish something and 12 things appear. If your attention's always slightly on that, then you don't even get quality relax and recreation time. And without quality relax and recreation time, some white noise, some chill out space, you cannot effectively get your work done. So that list gets longer and then you feel worse. And so then you work harder and then you're more stressed out. So you get even less done. And then you can see the cycle starting.
Well, and that's the key point that I want to make today. The key point is really it's the underlying structure. When we use this sense of pressure, often we do it because the intention is to motivate us. Oh, I'll get this done during isolation. The intention is this is going to motivate me. And yet what often ends up happening, particularly if it's you really you should be doing this, it kind of backfires and we end up feeling heavier and more tired with this sense of pressure and obligation. Like, even just think about it, like if there's a pressure, I have to do this, then like for me it feels like a heavy backpack when I think of that. And it's like, I'm not going to be able to run as fast if I have a heavy backpack on. And if I take it off, there's no pressure and go at your own pace. Like, that's my experience. So when I give myself the freedom, the days like, and Deb taught me this strategy, this sense of like, I'll just give myself the day off. And that when you give yourself the space, that's when the creation actually emerges. Then you write a novel, then you do this. Like, the days that I work the most are the ones that I give myself off, which is why I do that so often, right? That sense of, you don't have to work, do something, don't do something, it's okay. And then things happen.
Yeah. There's definitely something in that whole, when you remember you don't have to, that it is a choice. Everything you're doing is a choice in some way, shape, or form. It might be a choice between like that shitty thing or that shitty thing, but you're still making a choice. But when you give yourself back that ownership, it becomes so much easier so much of the time. You know, like, I have to, what's the example I used to use? I have to go to the gym. Well, actually, no, you don't. You are choosing to go to the gym because either you're spending money on it and you want to make that money worthwhile, or you have a fitness goal, or you want to get out of the house, whatever it is. There is a reason you're choosing that. And when you walk towards the gym with, I have to go to the gym, I have to go to the gym, it feels icky. It's harder, like you don't really want to be there. But when you remember you want to, you sort of like, oh, I'm going to the gym, this is going to be great. Oh, look, my workout's already over, that's really fun. And like, that being said, sometimes the only way you're getting to the gym is if you have to go to the gym, and that is okay as a driver some of the time, but you can't always be like in that gear kind of thing, because that just bleh.
What you're referencing, you're pointing to, I feel like most people who would be listening to this might have an awareness of these modes of operating Diana's referring to. In our brain, we have different brain gears that are known as modes of operating, and got a focus sheet on that in your success code. The recognition of the importance to match the gear that we're in for the task at hand. The same way if we were driving a car, we wouldn't attempt to park that car in fifth gear. It's just not well suited. The same way of realize where we are with the type of task, the severity of task, and how to match that with the brain gears. And that's a really important thing to learn how to do. I don't want us to go into that right now, but maybe on another episode we can dive deeper into that. Comment if you want that. Comment if you want us to explain more about modes of operating from brain gears. And if this was useful for you, this conversation about pressure, and if you feel like you need some I guess the word is permission to relax, take it easy, enjoy this time, then you can give yourself that permission, or know that it is, or take it, if you want it to come from a peak performance expert. We actually do more when we allow ourselves the space to release the pressure, right? So if you're feeling pressured at all to get a lot done during this time and make use of this time, let that go.
You don't have to.
And
you don't have to.
Yeah. You can just enjoy the time and space that is here now, and see what what is created from that. So we'll be back tomorrow. Deb's still on her healing week, so we'll be back with another episode tomorrow and see what's current then. Hope you've enjoyed, and we'll speak to you then. Bye for now.
Bye for now.